Are Putin's forces now preparing to hammer Kyiv like never before, signaling that the next phase of this war could bring an intensity of strikes the city has yet to see? Is Kyiv bracing for wave after wave of incoming fire as Moscow promises new systematic attacks, hinting that random barrages may be replaced by a relentless, carefully planned campaign? Has Russia quietly warned the US ahead of unveiling a new Kyiv strike doctrine, using diplomatic backchannels to signal that what comes next could change the rules of this conflict? Sergey Lavrov has issued a chilling warning to Marco Rubio to evacuate the US embassy in Kyiv, drawing a red line around American diplomats and hinting that no one in the capital should feel safe. With Moscow talking openly about hitting decision centers, Kyiv's political and military nerve hubs are now firmly in Russia's crosshairs, raising fears of direct strikes on the leadership of the Ukrainian state. On May 24th, Putin unleashed the nuclear-capable Oreshnik system on Kyiv in a night of fire, sending a stark message that Russia can brandish its most feared weapons without formally crossing the nuclear threshold. Russia has rained more than 500 drones and missiles on Kyiv in a single massive assault, presenting it as both payback for recent strikes and the opening act of a broader escalation meant to overwhelm Ukraine's defenses. All of this comes after Putin accused Ukraine of deliberate targeting in a nighttime drone blast, using that allegation as the pretext for a new wave of punishment that could drag the war into an even darker phase.
I am forced to start with the tragic events that you have surely heard about, namely the tragic events in the Luhansk People's Republic. Last night, the neo-Nazi regime that seized power in Kyiv carried out a terrorist attack on the student dormitory of the Starobelsk Pedagogical College. At night, when the students were sleeping. According to reports, I have been listening to reports from the head of the Republic, Pasechnik Leonid Ivanovich, the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Emergency Situations, the Director of the FSB. It is currently known that 6 people died, 39 were injured, 15 are missing, as the debris is still being cleared. We will certainly do everything to help the victims and the families of the deceased. I emphasize, this is important. There are no military facilities, intelligence facilities, or related services near the dormitory. Therefore, there is no reason to say that the shells hit the building due to our air defense systems, electronic warfare. No one can say that they tried to hit some object, and the UAVs were shot down by our own means and allegedly accidentally hit this building. The strike was not accidental. It occurred in 3 waves of 16 UAVs in the same place. Of course, we will investigate the details. They will be investigated. Appropriate conclusions will be drawn. But it is clear to us, once again, it becomes obvious. Who are we dealing with? Who are we fighting against and for what? This is a manifestation of neo-Nazism. This once again confirms the terrorist nature of the Kyiv regime. Once again, I want to, in this regard, I have already done this, appeal to the servicemen of the armed forces of Ukraine. Do not follow criminal orders, illegitimate, corrupt junta. Otherwise, you yourselves become accomplices in these crimes. Although the reasons for such criminal behavior of the Kyiv regime are understandable. You know this better than anyone else. These are constant failures at the front, surrendering positions of settlements, territories. The situation at the front for the armed forces of Ukraine is gradually turning from difficult and critical to catastrophic. Neither Western aid, which is regularly embezzled, helps, but they simply cannot resist. They cannot resist non-violent mobilization when people are caught on the streets like stray dogs and then thrown to the front. In this regard, desertion is catastrophically growing for the enemy. It is becoming large-scale. The situation for the ruling elite is aggravated by the corrupting, all-consuming corruption that is covered by the regime's leaders. In fact, they themselves are participants in the corruption schemes, which is why they then help each other flee the country, escaping to Israel, to other countries, abroad. It is well known to everyone, both in Ukraine and in the world, that the Ukrainian authorities steal from everything, just from everything. It has come to military property and personal protective equipment intended for those who are driven to the front like cattle, driven to die for those who plunder Ukraine and foreign aid. The Kyiv regime undoubtedly needs such crimes to divert attention from the events happening both at the front and in the country, to provoke a response in Russia. And then, we know this, we have been through it many times, to blame everything on us, on Russia, on our country, all the escalations and all the consequences of such crimes. I repeat, we have been through this many times. Nevertheless, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia has been instructed to inform international organizations and the international community about this crime. Of course, We understand that in such cases it is impossible to limit ourselves to statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Therefore, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation has been ordered to present its proposals, and now I would ask you to stand and honor the memory of the deceased.